So right on cue, because Crookie has ran down the stairs. He didn't even take the lift. He took the emergency
Don't
stairs
lie.
to get down. Crookie would never do that,
No.
actually. He was chaperoned
He'd
down.
be carried down on the throne.
Because he heard Nicholas Butt and Paul Scholes were going to be on the menu. Welcome, Crookie. Good to see you.
He's in.
He's actually in physical person.
I know.
But you know what?
I do exist. I'm not a hologram.
You know what? This transfer window, this guy is booked and busy, so we're very grateful that you've stopped by.
You've graced us, exactly.
Yeah.
But onto this though, Crookie. I mean, everyone's been having their say. I've been calling them out, and I think everybody has. There are some on social media that are like, "Oh, why are you making such a big deal of this? You know, the Glazers are getting away with it if you talk about this and all this kind of nonsense," which just isn't the case. All of it's true. Where do you stand on what they've been saying pre-game, post-game, all of it?
Disclaimer here, these are some of my favourite players from my childhood. So I've certainly got no axe to grind with Roy Keane or Paul Scholes or Nicky Butt or Gary Neville. But I do look at the relationship between those Manchester United legends and the current team and the legends of other clubs. And they do have a tendency to stick the boot in a lot more than, say, Martin Keown would to Arsenal.
He's all the way the other way. He won't say anything.
Or Jamie Carragher would to Liverpool. Now, there's a fine line here because it's not their job to be cheerleaders.
No.
And let's not beat around the bush. Over the last decade or so, there's been an awful lot to criticise Manchester United for. I've been quite vocal. I got into a spat with a United fan on the show on Friday when I got accused of being the new Mark Goldbridge, which obviously went down like a lead balloon. So
no aspirations?
I think criticism is fair game, but I do think sometimes it gets too personal. I think you need to look at Roy Keane, who, again, I absolutely adored as a player. I think he spends a lot of his punditry settling scores and maybe going over the line. I think Nicky Butt, when you look at the circumstances of his departure from the football club, and I think he had aspirations maybe to be director of football, so you wonder if there's a personal agenda there. Gary Neville is a brilliant businessman, but he's ruthless, and I think maybe he sees criticism of Manchester United as an opportunity to get more listeners, get more subscribers. And I think when you start talking about someone's height, and you've not really done your research, because actually Lisandro Martinez has had Haaland in his pocket in previous games, not least the FA Cup final. So that was just wrong from Nicky Butt. It wasn't right and proper.
And I think that's the case. It was just wrong. I'll come to you, Jamie, and then yourself, Ange. You know, from the media perspective and the other journalists, and
it's great for people like me and Jamie because you're always going to get a quote and a bit of copy.
Exactly. I mean, how have you found it? Have you found it fascinating? Have you found it wrong? Have you found it, entertaining?
Well, yeah. I mean, I found it hilarious. I mean, in isolation, the image that Nicky Butt offered, I think it was Nicky Butt who said this, Haaland's going to pick up Lisandro Martinez and run with him like a school dad. I'm sorry. For me, anyway, that is a funny image. I can't, you can actually picture it. But there is a but coming. What made me particularly laugh is when Martinez answered this sort of stuff in quite a calm way, actually. Yes. He said it in the mix zone after the game. Said, I've already sort of corresponded with Paul Scholes, and if they want to come round to my house, etc., say it's face to face. They then got cheesed off about that. This is the thing that's really made me laugh. Oh, what was it? But said, grow up. Wait a minute, you've just sort of like, how can I say this? Not humiliated, but kind of been a little bit mocking,
Took it too far, yeah.
By the picking up image. And I think Scholes said, I was surprised in Paul Scholes. And actually, it's quite interesting this for me, because I always found Paul Scholes, listen, you can get all the stuff out of the way about being an amazing player, but I always found him, I don't know if smug's the right word, but a little bit sort of, I don't know. And so I think we see here, he's human. I'm not sure he's particularly, I think he's ended up in the sort of position, he swerves all the time as a player. He would never speak to us, and that was his right, etc., etc. But now he's on the other side. It's quite interesting to see him.
He's got everything
in
to
the
say.
situation. And you've got it right, Flex, about the accountability. Everything I do, and it's fine, I kind of thrive on it, but everything I do is kind of scrutinised through the lens of a City or a United fan, or, as a reporter, I mean, from fans there. And now these two gentlemen are in the same position. Listen, on the one hand, I do agree that it is a podcast. It's like two blokes down the pub who happen to have been amazing players. Remember, Butt was in the FIFA 2002 World Cup team of the tournament. You don't do that unless you can play football. And he's considered the lesser, compared to Scholes, blah, blah, blah. So on the one hand, I love the fact they've said all this. But if Martinez is then going to sort of say, well, say it to my face, which I think is fair enough. He's allowed to say what he's allowed to say. For Butt to turn around and say, grow up. I was like,
it's pathetic.
Really?
There is an irony as well, isn't there? When they played under a manager who would regularly ban journalists from press conferences because he wasn't happy with criticism. Yeah. And it was a group of players who were almost trained, and it was ingrained in them that the press were the enemy.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a very quick story to tell you about this. A friend of mine, who I won't name, but it's quite half famous in another part of the media, was once in a hotel room and a hotel sort of foyer. This is when the Fergie's United were in the pomp, early 2000s. Players are like Sheringham, etc. So anyway, cut long story short, this person who knew a few of these players just because of the sort of business they're all in, sort of said hello, and it was like the way it was described to me was the players were too scared to interact, even to sort of say hello back because Ferguson was sat there. You know what I mean? Now, again, that's up to them, but I'm not too sure how media savvy or, I mean, I'm really interested to see what happens next. I guess nothing. I guess Martinez won't sort of answer back again. But I do think, as I said at the top of this, both of them are kind of making a little bit of fools of themselves, which is quite funny to see.
Yeah, I just think when I've looked at it and I've read these quotes, it is the post Martinez response that is just pathetic. Like the fact that they've said. I just think when someone gets so upset about something on a podcast or in the media, to come out and say they can say what they want and come to my house, grow up. If you're going to get so emotional about someone saying something about you and react like that, you shouldn't be at a big football club.
Should
Alex Ferguson have not been
emotional, was he?
I know.
Exactly. But, should Alex Ferguson have not been at a big football club then? Because he would get irritated by what people would say. I just think the whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. And, do they not have, and again, these are guys that we all adored as football players, but do they not have stuff to do?
But then maybe they've got what they want because we're debating it. We're therefore promoting their output.
And I know that they don't have necessarily massive jobs with Salford City anymore and stuff like. But they've got the hotel, right? Hotel football. They've got stuff to do. So can we just focus?
Go and do something else?
Can we just focus on that rather than hurting the club that has given you everything as to why you even are significant enough to have a podcast for people to be listening to you. It's because of this club and what you're doing. If you want to have an opinion, it's absolutely fine. But to then pick up on this and start going in on Lisandro Martinez, who was cool, calm and collected about the whole thing, I think he handled it really well. And he's right, because when they probably do come down to counting, or they've got an ambassadorial thing going on, or they're doing this and that, they probably don't get into it. They probably don't go down that road with them. So he said, listen, if you've got something to say, then let's talk about it.
But by the way, of all the issues at the club in the last couple of years, and of all the players who've underperformed, Lisandro Martinez is not the biggest problem by any stretch of imagination.
If you're having a go at somebody, he ain't the guy to have a go at. But I just think you're not helping this club. If you care about this club and you're going on about the Fergie days and this is what you're bothered about, this is, your memories of this club, what it's given you, doing this is not helping.
No.
And going in on a player and being so cruel, also during a time where, let's be honest, there's so much talk now about being a little bit kinder to each other, showing people a little bit of respect. I just think it's a really, really cheap shot from them. And I thought better, if you want to criticise someone, fair enough. But the way that they're saying, grow up and you shouldn't be at a big football club, who are you to say that? I just think it's a cheap shot.
I think Michael Carrick handled it really well.
Brilliant.
And obviously he's been there. He knows the level of scrutiny that comes with being associated to Manchester United. So actually, I don't think it's going to be a problem in the dressing room.
No,
I think that they would be annoyed about it, but clearly it wasn't there's a good level of performance. And I just think that...
But it just doesn't help. Crookie, you touched on it there. You think about legends of clubs and the way that they treat current players. And yeah, maybe other clubs are doing better. You talk about, Arsenal legends, Arsenal doing very well at the minute. But I just think, this is a time, if you really cared about the club and you really wanted this club to succeed and you really wanted these players to succeed, do it in... Oh, sorry, I just hit the mic. I'm that upset. Do it in private if you've genuinely got some concerns or something. Or maybe just try and, be there for these players and just be listen, I know what it's like to be a Manchester United player. Try and be supportive of these people.
But the thing that
rather
they will
than just
to,
going in.
The thing that people will listen to if these guys speak who have won everything at our football club is actual footballing breakdown and critique about the pros and cons about said player. When Paul Scholes or Nicky Butt are trying to say, do you know what? I think his defending in the box is poor because he switches off when crosses come in. Or I think actually he needs the right partner because of the lack of height that he's got there and the physical dominance.
What he probably
needs. But to be making fun of someone.
What they've done is it's as simple as this. They've tried to be smart because they just don't particularly rate the player. They've come with a disgusting take in isolation. They're not talking about all of him. They're not talking about the rest of the season before or what's to come.
And
They're
also, he's just
talking
coming back
about
from a massive injury. as
exactly
well.
come back from a big injury.
Right.
They're talking about this one game coming up, i.e. the Manchester derby, and their prediction for that said 90 minutes was Haaland's going to have a field day with Martinez.
And actually the complete opposite.
And the complete opposite happened. So,
So-
guess what?
so
To
what
simplify this,
yeah.
all you need to do is come and say,
I was wrong.
flipping heck, mate.
I was wrong.
He had an absolute
Yeah.
stormer.
But they did,
I
they've-
was wrong.
they've doubled
And they
down.
couldn't do that. And Nicky Butt said, was just a figure of speech. Spare me, do one. Just own it and say sorry, bro. That's all you have
Yeah.
to do.